we have free for all for a moment?
Free for all?
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure what that means, but maybe, maybe. I'm afraid to say yes, potentially.
Free for life.
Right. What do you, what?
So it's going off because I was an animated character,
Okay,
the Cinderella character,
okay.
and I read that paper.
You regret it? Is that what you said?
Read that paper.
Okay, I thought you said I regret that paper. Okay, you read that paper. Check.
There's so many things I regret. Okay, that's Psych. That's good.
That is good in general, right? But okay.
And I read that paper. You read that paper?
Which one?
The Cinderella paper?
I don't think so.
Breakfast.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't think that's the format that she wants. So I'm gonna go back and read.
Oh, you mean the sample that's on there? Yeah, yeah, I read that. I wasn't sure which paper you were talking about, but no, okay, yeah.
Work with me.
Okay, yeah. Give me more detail. Okay. The sample one, okay.
The sample one, also an animated character.
Right, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Back. Okay, so, yes.
So I just tried to give you a variety of papers that were well done. That like got full points. So they're all kind of done in their, I mean, they're all done in their own way, but any of the ones that are on there were like good, in my opinion, were fine. So.
Took the approach, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I took the approach that you were actually doing some kind of diagnostic.
Yeah, you should be.
You know, so I quoted the DSM-5 and like, these are the things that you need to hit
Yeah.
to qualify as a ADHD. And that, you know, actually did numbers and stuff, like I did an intake form kind of, I mean, I did it narratively.
Okay.
But like, here's what her intake would, you know, she presents as a female, she's an adult, she's good health, she hasn't had a brain injury, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. I mean, that sounds good so far.
I mean,
you know.
isn't that?
Yeah, so I mean.
Boss, that I am so bad at following directions.
Okay.
I sort of need to go, okay, so this is how I'm gonna make this work.
Well, and like you can, I mean, you have some
Sorry,
freedom.
that's a confession, by the way.
Also, you have some freedom to do it in the way that you want, as long as you're hitting all of those things, which is why I posted so many samples, because they all kind of do it in their own way.
So I need to go back again.
Yeah, so I mean, I would look them over and just kind of get an idea of like how they did it. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more today too.
The Cinderella one's
yeah, so maybe look at the other
a
one.
little fluffy.
Yeah,
like, and I was like, is it because that's why it's fluffy, or?
No, I mean, and so like, okay, so, where did it go? Click on the wrong thing, Monday morning here.
Sorry.
So like, I really like the Black Swan one was like really, really good. Like all of these, I think like that one was the last one that I added. I mean, take that where you will. It's still got like a good grade, but the other ones, like those are all good papers. So maybe look over all of them. Just kind of get an idea of what they did. Yeah. Yes, just one character, but yeah, one disorder. Yeah, and I wouldn't do more than 2. Because otherwise you're just gonna be, it's just too much. So like what a lot of people will do is they'll pick one. And then they'll take a paragraph and kind of write like, here are my other thoughts.
Yeah, I kind of think of being.
Yeah.
To that.
Okay.
Kind of.
Yeah, so focus on that main one, and then you could take like a paragraph or 2 and focus on like your thoughts on other stuff. And that's probably the best way to do it, because if you do much more than 1 or 2, it's just gonna be really big. And you can give me more, like I'll never take off for you giving me too much. I just don't want it to be more work than you don't need more work on your plate, probably.
Agreed.
Right? All right, good morning.
Morning.
Officially. Did everyone enjoy all the rain?
Yes.
It was so nice, other than our house flooded.
Oh, that's
We have
kind
a-
of huge.
I was telling, we were talking about this earlier, I have a patio in the back that like somebody clearly once upon a time converted. It used to be like open and they closed it. And we came out in the middle of the night. It was like 11 o'clock at night. We went to put our dog out to go to the bathroom and came out and the whole thing was under about that much water. And it was just miserable. We had to like literally shovel it all out and it's like a laminate wood floor that's now all buckled. It was such a mess. So I love the rain so much. That kind of ruined it a little bit for me. I was like, oh, come on. So I'm like, oh, we got a little bit of sun. Hopefully it dries out for a second before it rains again today. So
So is that something you have to replace? or-
probably, yeah. We got our whole roof replaced earlier this year from that huge windstorm we had. It blew like half of our roof off. But apparently
You
have
try
a
to do the insurance thing or?
yeah, for the roof, yes. So now maybe we'll have to do it for the patio too. So my insurance company will love me this year. but
Well, it's
okay.
hard because everybody's having a hard time with insurance with
Yeah,
fires, right?
right, yeah,
So I'm actually in the mountains.
yeah. It's been a wild weather year, like natural stuff, between the fires and the wind and the rain and so anyway, I hope you're all like safe and everybody else is, hope your houses didn't flood. But on the plus side, I don't have a brace anymore for like the first time in like months. I'm so excited. So I feel very naked, so I'm like I'm wearing pants now, right? Because it feels everywhere I go, I'm like my knees exposed and it's very white. So I'm like I'll wear pants, then I don't blind all of you with my weird like braced hand that I have. So, anyway, random things for you on a Monday morning. So we have today and we have Wednesday. And then next week, we don't officially as a school have the time off, but I'm taking Monday and Wednesday because my kids have the whole week off. And it's been on the syllabus the whole time. So just to remind you of that. And I want to remind you about the paper. And a lot of people were asking questions. So I want to kind of talk about it a little bit more formally. And then we'll talk about the movie worksheet as it relates to 14. But the paper is due Wednesday. So I did this on purpose. I had it due this week so that if you are going somewhere next week, it isn't on your plate, right? Hopefully you can enjoy other things on your Thanksgiving plate, right? Instead, if you celebrate Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving, the Royal Fs, football, family food, right? It's a good day. Right? My favorite Fs in life. So the paper is due Wednesday by 11:59 p.m. So Wednesday night. A couple of people have already turned it in, but you have all the way until then. It should be 5 to 6 pages, not including the title page and the references page. So like a solid 5 to 6 pages of like writing about your character. Now you can always give me too much, but you don't want it to be shorter than that. Okay, I've been doing this for a long time, this paper. If it's shorter than that, you probably didn't go into enough depth. So if you're on Canvas, and you click on modules, and we were talking about this a minute ago, here are the instructions for the assignment, and then I gave you some resources, and I think these are things that are helpful, so I just want to take a moment to point them out. There are some sample papers. This was for part 2, but then there are some sample papers for people who turned it in, and they were good papers who got A's. They're all a little bit different, like we were talking about, but you could take a look at those if you're wondering how to format your paper and what to write about and what to do. I wanted to give you some samples. I also gave you some handouts and like stuff from the Writing Center on APA formatting. Now, I'm not asking you to do much, but I do want you, for in terms of APA, you're going to have a title page and a references page. And you should have some in-text citations. Okay, those are the 3 things that I'm looking for. Now, I teach research methods, like could go way more into depth on APA formatting, but we're not going to for now. All I want from you is that you've attempted a title page, you've attempted a references page, and you have some in-text citations. So if you quote something, if you get your diagnostic criteria from somewhere, which I imagine all of you will, make sure you cite it. Even if you don't cite it properly, I'm just looking that you cite it. Okay, so it doesn't have to be in like correct formatting. Typically what that means is it's like author and then year. Right, but I'm not going to even be checking that it's accurate, just that you do have citations. That's all that I want to see. And you should have a title page and references page. Every single one of these did that. And then there's also some great resources here on how to do those things from the Writing Center. This handout from the Writing Center gives you a sample page of both that you could just follow. or you could follow how they did it in any of these as well. On your references page, you should have your academic source. Wow, my brain just completely like left me. Academic source. And you should have your show. Minimum, right? So you should have like your academic source, like the DSM or journal article, and your show. You can have more than that, but it should have those two things. And then some in-text citations, like I said, along the way. So like, for example, if you click on like Black Swan, I hope the internet works. The internet has been shameful. It's like there's rain, so the internet doesn't want to work. But you can see like, so they have a title page, right? Title of their paper, your name, some information, page number, and then they go into their paper after that. And then at the very end, right, they have a references page with their the DSM and the book. They didn't have the show. That's the one thing that they forgot in their paper, which they lost a couple of points for. Okay, so don't forget to have your source and the show. But you can see each one of these papers, like they did this really well, right? They followed like a good format. One thing that a few of them do that I really like, it's totally up to you, but a lot of them did headings. I love headings in APA formatting because it just like organizes the paper in a beautiful way. And I think that's really appealing. It's totally up to you. But if you look at the directions, like you should have like a show summary.
Will you pull up the directions
Yep.
slide?
Yep. You should have like a character description. Right, you should have like a diagnosis. But so each section, you could have a little like heading above it in bold, just to give it like that organization. It's up to you, but I think there's something really appealing about that. And it makes it very easy for me to find those things in your paper, which is always nice as well. Now let me bring up the instructions for you, like you asked.
Please, thank you. And on the headings, do you want, can you make a heading show summary or
Yeah,
you just want
right, so it could be
summary?
show summary or just summary, character description, diagnosis, causes, treatment. Maybe you have one that says like other thoughts, like you had like about other diagnoses, right? Like it could be any of those things, right? So you don't have to do headings, but there's something really appealing about them. A couple of the papers did them, so it's up to you. But here are the instructions, right? So in the paper, if I can make that a little bit bigger here. It's like I said, it should be 5 to 6 pages, not including the title page and references page. You should have a description of your character, right? So like paint a little picture for me, like you were describing the character to somebody. How old are they? What do they look like? Tell me a bit about them. Give me like a paragraph about your character. Then you're going to focus on like a little summary of the show, right? And you can do them in either order, right? Like what is the show about? Right? So give me a couple of paragraphs about that. Then you're going to spend the bulk of your paper diagnosing, right? So here, like you did with Arnie, that we'll talk about in a little bit, what are some of the symptoms that you see? What disorder does that match? Look at the criteria. You'll talk about causes, you'll talk about treatment, and then you have some closing remarks. And that's kind of the format that everybody followed in their paper. Again, you can organize it how you want, but if you just kind of follow that, you should be in good shape. And it should take you like 5 to 6 pages, right? If you're well short of that, maybe make sure that you went into detail enough about like the symptoms and the criteria and the causes and the treatment. Just elaborate on each one of those. Are there any other questions for now? Yeah. Yeah.
So based off of what you turned in for part 2, does that have any effect with how much change you've seen from what we turned in part 2 and part 3 in the grade?
No. So I don't go back and look at part 2, right? So part 2 was just to help you make progress toward part 3, right? So I'm not going to go back and look at what you did. Some people even changed movies or shows or characters since then. So I don't go back and look at it. It was just to help you get to part 3.
I said that.
Yeah. But no, it won't impact your grade at all. Yeah. Yes.
Like a bunch of different books and tools.
Yeah.
Tutors that know APA can help out.
So helpful. And you can even do it virtually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zoom is available for like drop-in, and then you can also actually, like, there's an email that you can send papers to.
Yeah.
And get feedback like that.
It's a wonderful resource, and it might be like maybe if you were on it today, it might not be too late, but it's probably getting close given that it's due Wednesday. But they do have like wonderful help, and like the references or the resources that I have on here are from the Writing Center, and they're really helpful as well. We had a wonderful person there a few years back who like helped me make some stuff for this specifically, and I think they're really, really helpful. Anything else here for now? Flee.
Writing center, so I just look on the website somewhere.
Yeah, it's in the library, right? It's on the, is it the second floor or the third floor? Yeah, the top floor, right? And they do have like all sorts of different like resources. Like it might be, like I said, on the cusp of being too late for this paper, but like MLA, APA, they'll like sit down and go over the whole paper with you. They'll go over the formatting with you. They're wonderful, and it's completely free for you as a student.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I used to have them come in and do a whole presentation, but the main person who worked there like kind of moved on, and so which was unfortunate. But like I said, there's this handout right here from them and this PowerPoint from them. So the handout is all about like APA style formatting. Right, so they kind of tell you like a title page, references page, how to format your title page, and they give you a sample, right? So if you just follow this, you'll be in really good shape. They talk a little bit about headings if you wanted to have headings in your paper like they have here, and you probably just have like a main heading, not like subheadings. They talk about how to do in-text citations, all in APA formatting, and then at the very end, they give you a references page. So I'm scrolling all the way down. Oh, I went too far. It's right here. References page, and like show you how to do that as well. So really, really nice resource that they made specifically for this paper. And I had them include the DSM on there too. So if you're like, how do I cite the DSM? It's in that little handout.
Thank
Yeah. Anything else? I'll check in with you one last time on Wednesday, but anything else for the final paper? Again, these sample papers are really helpful. Okay, read through them, use them as like a template if you need it. If you have questions, you can obviously email me and ask. Feel free to check out the Writing Center. It might not be too late, right? Especially if you're on it today. Good for now. Okay, so what I want to do then from here is we spent 2 classes watching. Oops, that's for next time, right? So we're young today. We'll be old on Wednesday. Hold on, sorry, back. What I want to do, I want to give you just like 3 or 4 minutes, just a couple of minutes really quickly. Find a couple of people around you and just kind of compare what you have for number 2. And you could even like look at the ones on the back. I'll just give you a few minutes and then we're going to talk about it together for the rest of our time. So find a couple of people, just kind of compare thoughts and notes, and then we'll talk about it as a class. Does everyone have this? Can I erase?
you like the paper? I got an extra. That's my favorite one. You must have learned.
I don't, did I email them out on, so, yeah, I don't.
Thank you.
Yep. If you go on to Canvas, it should be on the announcements.
Very good.
I've seen that a lot of times. I've seen that specifically. Yeah.
What was that?
I said the other bits we're doing make it all about me.
What's up?
Right.
Yeah.
So I already have. And I'm going on. Nice. I have all the houses and kids and stuff.
Yeah, I can tell you the one that I hear people love the most is Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think Calvin is the one that I hear the most like positive about. I almost went to CSUN for my master's degree. I ended up going to home, but like they had a really, really awesome program too, and a lot of variety in their master's program. But it was just for like master's. So are you looking at like a doctorate or a yeah, so the nice thing about a master's, it's usually 2 years. And then you can start doing what you want to do. And oftentimes you do the exact same thing with a doctorate and a master's. It's just a difference. And it's not even that significant. Like, for example, like I'm the only one the only full-time person here who only has a master's degree. And the only difference that it makes is like, I don't have a doctor in front of me and I make like $6,000 less a year. That's it. That's it. And like,
I never heard that in 60. In my 60s, I'm
well,
like,
I'm just
if I
saying,
work until I'm 90, I'm like,
but that's my point. If you're,
$7 a year.
like, if you're ready to like be able to do what you want to, you can do all that. And then people have to pay you less on the salary. That's a big thing too. So,
They're choosing.
honestly, like, if you look online, the difference in, like, I mean, like, I can do everything that I ever wanted to do in psychology. I wanted to PhD, and so I just didn't get into the program, and like, it ended up being a lesson, like,
I'm not doing university.
yeah, it ended up being just fine. I almost went to UCSB, they have a great program as well. Really, really good, and it's not that far, but it's very like, so the nice part about a master's is you also get into like what you want to do right away. Versus a PhD program, you have to write a doctor, like a doctoral thesis, like a dissertation. Takes a lot of your time and energy. I mean, if you're ready to like do what you want to do, master's degrees are often like a really nice option. Like, I don't know what you're thinking of wanting to do, like, they're often. We can just jump into it so much faster. Yeah. Right. That's the other thing too, is, you know, like with a PhD program, it takes years before you start doing it, but my master's in counseling stuff, I was seeing clients the second semester. And I knew right away that it wasn't what I wanted.
So then how did you pivot? Yeah, like when you were like.
I finished the program because I could do this with that as well. So with a counselor, you I can speak, I can research, I can therapy. So,
So that seems like.
in my opinion, I mean, I'm unbiased, I thought the math was just fine. And like, I really don't need much less, not limited. I like it. I mean, I got, yeah, so, I mean, and there were 182 people the year I played. Yeah, it's, I don't know if it was lucky or what, but like, so, a little bit. But my point is that, it's not as necessary as I think. You can do a lot of masters and you can do a lot. And so, just look into it a little bit more before you get
Big grim fruit there. A lot of great skills like. Like that's planted later on your graves. Loving mother. You know, it's basically saying a doctor.
No, well, I'm like, and I would have loved to be a doctor, but it just wasn't necessary, you know?
Place that I've ever really looked
Yeah.
at my tombstone writing.
Right? Yeah, it's just so.
I thought it was.
Let's take just like another minute or so, and then we'll talk together.
On the team. They're all. Oh. Oh, same. Said.
But I mean,
for the time they built it. I said, not anywhere. Anywhere.
when you're going for your licensing.
Oh, that's what you're selling.
Yeah. So you have to do 3,000 hours. And therapy counts as every hour you go to therapy counts too. It's good, because they want you to be in there, they want you to know what's like on the other side.
That might not, I didn't know where it's at.
Recorded licensing.
That's why, so I didn't put that parameter in.
I know, right?
It just doesn't matter, right? Like,
For that, as long as I can read it.
spelling.
No, I mean, clearly not. I think I spell things all wrong all the time. I just write them blurry when I'm not sure how to spell it.
Like solid strategy. Exactly.
All right, are we ready? Want to talk about it together? Feeling good? Okay, so here's what I want to do. I'm not going to talk about a lot of the slides as we mentioned before, but we'll kind of talk about them as they relate to your thoughts with Arnie. I think a great character for like a differential diagnosis, right? And I kind of heard little bits of it around like different thoughts on him, but let's get a list going. So for number 2, let's get like a big list of things that we see in Arnie. Like somebody, give me one thing to start, right? Who wants to give me some kind of deficit that you see in Arnie? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, what do you want? So communication struggles or let's say maybe or poor communication. Yeah.
Even understanding culture.
Okay. So, understanding consequences. I'm going to try and abbreviate them just to keep it from being ridiculous. Understanding consequences. What else? Lots of them. Yeah.
Not a little self-harm in there, like the story and
Okay. We could add even to like kind of has some dangerous behavior, like with the water tower. I don't know that popped into my mind as you said that. Okay, what else? What else do we got? I know that you have a lot of them. This should be a big one. Oh, I thought your hand was up. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So maybe irregular movements. Okay. Yeah.
Like emotional dysfunction, like things like were outbursts.
Okay. Outbursts. Okay, a lot of his emotions were kind of erratic, right? What else do we want to add? Yeah.
but it's not this no. Like he's unable to leave the room.
Okay. Or like social.
Also where?
Okay. Right, read. I say that to my kids all the time. Read the room, you guys. Right, like, all right, poor social awareness. Okay, other stuff. Let's get some more. I know there's more. Yeah.
Honesty with emotions.
Okay. Poor like emotional processing. Okay. Yeah.
Acts like younger than he actually is.
Yeah. Very childlike. And I would say he doesn't, the fact that he acts younger, like not his age. I think that's a big one for him. What else? Anything else that you have written down? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anything else that we want to add? That's a big one, I would say as well. Yeah. He does a lot of like repeating things, like and counting. Yeah. Anything else? I mean, it's a great list, but a little bit, it could be. Yeah, he has some of that. Like the counting could be a little bit. Yeah,
Like,
okay.
sometimes he'll like moving, I don't know.
Okay.
I think the big thing is when he's killing the animals with the bug, he's like decapitating and he's getting joy out of death or.
And then he cries afterward that he killed him, right? Which is again like kind of that like poor processing. It's almost like a poor understanding too. Right? Like he didn't understand like the consequences, I would say, but like
Isn't there something that's, I don't know, a definition when you harm other, yeah.
yeah, I feel like in that situation, like he didn't quite. It's almost like he just didn't get that that was what like the finality of it in a way. I don't know. That was a kind of it's kind of an odd one, right? He kills it and he gets the joy, ooh, the head, right? And then like all of a sudden crying like I killed it, like he didn't understand like the finality of what he did in a way. Anything else? A great list, but anything else we want to add? See. I think those are pretty much like everything that I have down. Okay, so how about for if you go to the number 3, what are your thoughts on what disorders do we think? Let's get a list of all the ones we think. Yeah,
IB,
IDD, intellectual developmental disorder, that's one. Wait, what else? I know there were a couple more. Other diagnoses you put? Yeah. Okay, so ASD, let's get all the letters up here. IDD, ASD, do we want to add ADHD? Okay. He has some kind of ADHD-like stuff, right? Yeah.
cerebral palsy.
Okay. All right. So maybe a little bit of that as well, right? Some of the like movements and understanding, maybe a little bit there. Anything else? We got the letters, all the letters. Okay, so let's go through these a little bit, right? So did anyone think like ADHD elements at all? Like even if it's a little bit, I don't think that explains the whole picture, but there's some of that, right? That like hyper activity, that impulsivity, inability to kind of focus and pay attention. Those are things that you tend to see a lot with like ADHD. As a side note, ADD, right, is no longer a thing, right? So ADD was a thing for a long time, attention deficit disorder. It was absorbed into ADHD back in the DSM-4 text revision. So there's no ADD anymore, right? There's no just attention deficit. It's all ADHD, and then we specify whether or not it's hyperactive or impulsive in nature. Okay, so rather than like having ADD and ADHD, it's all under this umbrella, and then we specify the behavioral like pattern. Was that your question? I'm psychic right now. That one was changed a little bit. We see a few changes in this category of disorders over the last years, and that's a big one. I still hear it all the time. My mother-in-law is always like, I have ADD. I'm like, there's no such thing. Pet peeve of mine, right? No such thing anymore, right? But she says it all the time. I'm like, tell me you don't have it by telling me you don't have it. Like, it's not even a disorder. So the other big one, there's these two, right? So we have ASD and IDD. How many of you thought maybe that he's on the spectrum by show of hands? Okay, so why? What are your thoughts as to why autistic spectrum disorder? What do you think? A lot of you raised your hand. Why? Yeah.
Well, I know I have like 2 cousins that have it, and it looked like very similar.
Sure.
He would like he's like stimming a lot.
Yeah.
Feel.
No, it's okay. So it looked a lot like what you've seen in people that you know it. So stimming, right? So oftentimes we want to say stemming, right? Like it's like a natural thing to do, but it's stimming with an I for like self-stimulating behavior. That's where the term comes from. He does a little bit of that, right? Like some of the movements and the counting, the repetitive stuff, which can be very like self-soothing. So he has some of that like I would say some of those qualities and some of the other things that are up here. What else? A lot of you again thought maybe any other thoughts here? Yeah.
So I wasn't here when you guys watched me, but I have some. From what I remember, his verbiage and like how he speaks, the patterns he uses is very more in the low functioning artistic way
Okay.
of it. I mean, just like is off the top of my head.
Sure.
And then the fact that again, he can't take care of himself. at
Yeah.
all. His brother and his mom also are doing all the work, mentally wrap his head around whatever he's trying to do.
Okay, okay. Yeah, you had a thought too? What's up?
I think kids on the spectrum, and I think kids could feel me technically this still very general team.
Sure.
I think kids on the spectrum where they haven't had the guidance and education that they may have needed versus ones who have been in speech like therapy, behavior therapy, or what is speech therapy or whatnot. You had a lot of like, even when you did speak, they weren't so always in like sentence components of it,
Mhm.
or like the repeated movements or the self-harm. So that's why I thought on the spectrum myself, because I have seen kids get very like erratic and like start beating themselves because they're upset with what they said or what they did.
Sure.
Or then do erratic behaviors and like, may have hurt themselves or something, like jumping off something, like, he wasn't jumping, but he was climbing, he had no,
Yeah.
but he didn't understand that. So that's why like there was a disconnect from like reality in a sense. Like he was there and he knew things and he in a sense he knew he wasn't supposed to do it. It was like that, what was it, impulsiveness
Yeah.
happens a lot also on the spectrum. I just want to do it.
Okay.
But that also can happen with ADHD kids too. Like I just want to, I just need to. Like,
Yeah.
like a need to want to do something even though you're not supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a little bit of like multiple
Yeah.
pieces in a way, right? And I think he has some stuff here, like the repeating, the counting, some of his motor movement stuff. It fits here, right? Like the motor movements, the repetitive stuff. He does some like rocking and counting, the repeating and rocking and counting and that kind of stuff is very along the lines of like ASD. Yeah.
First bullet point, lots of responsiveness. The whole thing about him just staying in the bathtub, like he didn't respond to, like this is.
Yeah.
and,
Okay.
You know, even being hit, he just was there and looked at his brother. He didn't, you know.
Sure. And you could frame that in a different way, which we could talk about on the next one too, but like, because oftentimes the lack of responsiveness with ASD could be like complete flat, like affect, right? Which you don't see in him. He's very emotional. If anything, he's like overly emotional, right? And in some ways at times, and other times not, right? Like,
Like
yeah.
big things have happened. There's times that he just like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can tell he doesn't, he either didn't hear it or can't process it. Or
Right.
doesn't understand what it means or.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, it's a good thing to point out. Yeah.
Oh, I remember those things. It sounds like lack of like understanding social cues.
Yeah.
And I know that's like one of the biggest. Spectrum.
Right. Like I think of like combining that with the repeating, the like dad's dead, dad's dead, dad's dead, right? Repeating it when it's inappropriate, like not reading the room, not understanding the cues, and it's repeating. Like you definitely see some stuff here, right? Like I can see that for sure. Couple of side notes really quickly. So rather than being called just autism, right, they changed it to autistic spectrum disorder, right? So and I hear that a lot of you saying like he's on the spectrum. It's a very common way to refer to this disorder. Side note, Asperger's, if you've heard of Asperger's disorder, Asperger's used to be its own distinct disorder, right? You could have autism or you could have Asperger's. Now, Asperger's has been absorbed into the autistic spectrum. So technically it's like under the umbrella of ASD. And so Asperger's kind of a slightly different presentation. It's often someone who's very, very bright, like very intelligent, high functioning, but they really oftentimes struggle with like the social cues of things that can be like the biggest deficit there of like fitting in and like understanding social cues. So Asperger's is no longer its own unique disorder. It's part of the spectrum. Yeah.
I think of Sheldon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he is like
Sure.
super intelligent and like, but then sometimes you can like cut off like, okay, I'm reading the room, like, maybe this is not the time, but then he'll say something outrageous.
Yeah.
So that I think of like, I mean, autistic people are very intelligent people, but when I think of Asperger's, I think it's like, I think of it in a different way. I guess it's just.
It is kind of a different presentation. So generally with like autistic spectrum disorder, intelligence being high isn't a common trait, right? It's often like average or even below average, but Asperger's will be like hot, specifically hot. But then coupled with like, so Sheldon is kind of a good example in the sense that like very, very bright and intelligent, but the social cues are off, right? Like for sure. Not always like 100%, but off. Yeah, did you have oh, I think you have a thought, okay. Other thoughts about ASD? Anything else here for the moment? Okay, so the other big one that some of you said was IDD, right? Intellectual developmental disorder. This used to be called mental retardation. They changed the name to IDD, intellectual developmental disorder. Thoughts on IDD? Why would we go here? Yeah.
This deficit in terms of formulate and recognize consequences.
Sure.
It is deficits in the active functioning care of and and himself, he doesn't really know how to take care of himself and even on his platform, still doesn't know how to deal with it by himself.
Yeah.
The big part was that, we just seen him turn 18, so
Mhm.
we don't really have an idea of what it's like for that. We get a good understanding of his condition predates, their father's death, and so I feel like leading into that, they didn't say that it got worse, but they didn't necessarily say that it was any better.
Okay.
And so one of the biggest parts of IDD is the fact that it is a developmental disorder, so it has to develop in the time during the developmental period of life. I feel like for Army, that's not really true, but I feel like with the family dynamic, which will get into another question, I think that it foundations, his situation, almost, he almost had and this is my answer for the question.
Mhm.
He kind of developed like a learned helplessness.
Sure.
The fact that his family didn't take care of him. So the fact that he learned this helplessness and then he sees himself as someone that can't take care of himself. But you kind of see that when, Bill leaves him and says like, "Oh, are you okay? We're not sure what to do."
Yeah.
And he's still sitting in the bathtub.
Yeah.
I think part of that is like, no, he doesn't know what to do. I think he's so overwhelmed by where to start that I think that the overwhelming of where to start all these pieces of information, I think it started in that developmental age.
Okay.
And even when, we talked about it earlier, was killing the animal, they realized what exactly he was doing. I think even then, his parents or the siblings could have done a better job at sitting down and clearly exhibiting, displaying what his consequences of the action, helping him in areas that he's clearly so deficit in. And I think that because there's such a lack of foundation in those areas, that was like pretty much the telltale diagnosis
For you, yeah.
Sprinkles of ADHD.
Sure. He's kind of got sprinkles of a bunch of things, right?
Yeah.
Like, which I like thinking about it that way, right? But
So I didn't necessarily see self
sure.
late on it, but
Mhm.
it's
Okay. How many of you were also kind of thinking IDD by a show of hands? A lot of you, I see a lot of this, right? Like, so this is why I like this character so much, because a lot of characters in film aren't always obvious, right? Like it seems kind of obvious, but then when you start looking at the symptoms, it's like, it could be a couple of different things. And a lot of your characters that you have in your papers that you're writing about, same thing, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure they have this, but what about all these other things? And the media loves to blend things together to make it more complicated. If I had to put my money anywhere, I would put it here. And it's because of these two things right here. He doesn't act his age and he can't take care of himself. Okay, so he reminds me, okay, so he's turning 18, right? Or like he's about to turn 18 at the beginning of the film. He reminds me of my kids when they were like 3 or 4, right? When they were little, like the things that he says, or he said in the film, I remember them saying when they were little, like, very much reminded me of that. My kids, when they were 4, could wash themselves in the bathtub, not amazingly, but they could do it. If I left them in the bathtub, they wouldn't stay there. They'd probably run naked through the house somewhere instead, but they wouldn't have stayed in the bathtub. So you could view it as a lack of responsiveness, or you could view it as like he literally didn't know what to do, how to get out, how to dry himself off, how to take care of himself. These two things right here push me to this, right? Now, some of the other stuff like the stimming and the repeating and the counting make me think ASD. So I think if you were on the line of either of those, you're in a good spot, right? And either one would be totally fine. If you made kind of a case for either, you're in a good place. Did you have a?
Yeah, because I feel like really, like, he wouldn't have been that bad if, like, this goes down in this report.
Yeah, yeah.
If they had, I mean, since they didn't. Like, if he had known, if they had prepared him to take, maybe wash himself, maybe he would have sat in the shower and he would.
Yeah.
All done, all
Right.
done. He didn't.
Right.
So it's like, he didn't have that education, like, he was in his.
Yeah, it might, I think it was summer, but we don't see any school at all, right? No
I mean,
school.
it has what, the one who works at the fruit, how old is she?
So they're all like kind of.
Is she, it seems like she may be a little younger than, so it's like, it's, to me, it just seemed like that he fell through the cracks. in a
Yeah.
sense. Like, because again, like, I've seen kids on the spectrum that have the same, like, that high function, like, I don't know if they have function, but like, who are typically can sit in a classroom and do those type of things. But then I've also seen kids on the spectrum where they're in their own little world.
Yeah.
They're very, they have like a certain like hyper focusedness on something. Like his thing was, I want to get on that water tower.
Right, yeah.
But he also remembers things,
Yeah.
which is very unusual. And I don't know, there was just, like you said, like the movies they play it, like you can't just define it as one thing.
And his social like warmness pushes me away a little bit from ASD, right? Like he's very affectionate. It's not always appropriate, but like he thinks a lot of Becky. He's very affectionate with her. He's affectionate with Gilbert, right? Like he has a lot of that social pull. Oftentimes people who are like severely on the spectrum don't have as much of that. Not the case with things like Down syndrome. Down syndrome tends to be very affectionate, very loving, very like overly like attached. But you don't see that always with like ASD. So, and I think if we build on like what you're saying, so number 4, right, where we're looking at some causes, he definitely falls between the cracks. I think his family dynamic plays a really big part in where he's at. And you can teach somebody with IDD how to live, how to function, basic skills. And he doesn't get a lot of that. It's almost like they enjoy or they like have put him in a role that they don't feel any need to get him out of. Yeah.
Well, first of all, the kid shouldn't be raising,
Sure.
you know, but second of all, he wasn't supposed to live that long. So
Right.
they're like, why bother browbeating him to tie a shoe when,
Yeah.
you know, tomorrow might be his next, you know, last day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think that helps at all, right? Like some of that expectation, and sometimes there can be a correlation between like severe IDD and life expectancy because you're more likely to harm yourself and get injured. I always wonder sometimes with number 4, and it's never addressed in the film, but he loves to climb the tree. I always wonder if maybe he fell when he was younger, like maybe he climbed the tree and he fell, right? That like he had some kind of like injury when he was little. I mean, they can speculate, right? Yeah. Oh, go back there. No, yeah. Yeah, right. His dad, the trauma of his dad committing suicide. I don't know if you like picked up on that he hung himself out to dry, like his dad killed himself in the basement, hung himself. That could have been part of it. Yeah.
People refer to like low functioning autism.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah, they cannot take care of themselves.
Mhm.
Would that also coincide with IDD? Would they be like doubled up on the diet?
Usually it's one or the other. Like usually you would pick one. I mean, they're both global pervasive developmental disorders. So they could manifest in a very similar way, making it hard to tell. But when you start looking at the criteria, usually somebody fits one over the other, and you would have like a kind of a predominant leaning. But it might not always be the most easy to tell. Right? And I think with Arnie, it's a good example of what that could look like. right? Because he has elements of both.
Yeah.
Anything else you put for number 4? Any other things that might contribute? Yeah. Sure.
First one is like, his family, responsible for enabling.
Mhm. Right.
So, see that a lot, so, being the main caretaker.
Sure.
That kind of struck me as like, you know, I thought that was sweet at first when the movie first started, and then I kind of understood why as the movie went along.
Yeah.
Something that stood out very much to me was the fact that his sisters, his other siblings, kind of seemed way more passive to him, way more resentful of him. And felt like the undertone of what all of them kind of felt, but none of them really said, is that they do blame him for his fault, their falling death, because it seemed like, you know, that was a factor in that situation. And I felt like, you know, and then his mom started to get really depressed, and then they had to start taking care of the mom. And
Yeah.
so I feel like they really did blame him for the situation that they kind of felt themselves in, even if none of them.
For the father's death, is that what you?
Yeah, father's death.
Interesting, huh?
And then.
Okay.
And then when that started happening, Bill became the caretaker on me, so I don't know necessarily if that was a relationship with siblings with that. But his siblings, other siblings, had some capacity to with those things. And Bill being one of them, kind of understanding that he doesn't really get.
Yeah.
They're like mad at him for what he does, but Gil is mad and understands that he doesn't know. And
And we were talking about that a little bit when you stepped out the family oh, it's okay, that the family dynamic is definitely
yeah,
like part of it. I'm not sure that I picked up on the like that they blamed him, but like who knows, right? We have to speculate a little bit, you know, so.
it's like it's a inconsistency in black stuff.
Yeah.
The summer and then school, which provides a lot of structure. His family dynamic, also like what he did at the house, like everyone else really had chores, he didn't really have a chore, kind of just to his chores to stay out of the way.
Yeah.
And the last one kind of mentioned it earlier, that he kind of learned like a helplessness almost.
Mhm.
Yeah, like a learned helplessness about him, even at each of them. There were signs within certain aspects that he was more developed in certain areas. That felt like the areas that he was more developed in weren't acknowledged, and it was only cobbles it together with parts that he still wasn't developed. And I think the part of that was like there's no positive like role of the thing.
Yeah.
It was like other than like guilt sometimes making him feel safe and accepted sometimes, it's not really a whole alone positive that when the family can see something. So
Yeah.
So
I think the family plays a really big
I
part
think
in
Arnie
his
was
fun.
very receptive of that, and I think that's the one thing that even though it's not socially aware of what's going on, you know, maybe conversation. I think something that did play a factor is like I just felt a lot of guilt at anything maybe must have Arnie I was watching, not necessarily like he knew what he was doing. He was feeling guilty to it. It was almost like he knew he was going to be the blank. He knew he was going to be the blank, even if it was
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, all of those things, I think there's like kind of a role that he goes into, the family dynamic, all of that. Like I said, I suspect like maybe an injury, like it could be somewhat genetic or that he was born with it. There's a lot of like pieces that we don't know. Is that a,
Yeah, I mean, I kind of was also focusing on biological.
Yeah.
I assumed that he was born with it.
totally possible, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. There could be some kind of chromosomal abnormality that he was born with. It could have came all the way back from birth. Yeah.
Yeah, because is it common like after an injury for the doctors to say like he'll only live this long, or
Yeah.
is it when they're born?
So it could go either way. So having IDD doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to live a long life, but your chances, like it's the whole correlation causation thing, right? Like there's a a higher chance, a higher correlation of like early death with people who have like severe IDD, because they don't tend to understand consequences in the surroundings as well. They tend to get hurt more frequently. So it could have been that, or it could have been that he was born with something there, and so they gave him kind of a limited sentence. It's also like clearly back in like the 80s where we didn't have as good of a understanding, so that could have been part of it too. Yeah.
Like we said right now, because of the like misinformation happening.
Sure, yeah.
You know, everything.
No internet. The dark days.
Back then, they would just be like, oh, something's wrong, like they obviously were given incorrect or not sufficient amount of information
Sure.
to understand. But then that goes back to like, why did the dad kill himself? Why
We don't
did the
know.
mom have depression? Like,
Yeah.
did the mom do something? Like, was she a truth? Like.
Right? We need family drama information. There could have been like a family, like there could have been some traumas in the family that we don't know about. We don't know. I also think the small town doesn't contribute, right? Like there's not a lot of like a lot of stimulation for him in the town as well. Like there's not a lot of, what was that?
Okay.
Right, right? Yeah, did you have a thought too?
Just saying how dad killed himself and how mom felt that through depression. And especially the aspect with it being in a small town, it's like, especially in small towns that I hear that people are more frequently using alcohol or drugs. And
Yeah.
especially in the 80s, maybe there's less information of what you should or shouldn't take while you were pregnant. So
Right.
what you do is that you do. Like if the mom had been taking those things while pregnant.
And she smokes. We saw her smoking, which could have limited his oxygen intake when he was in utero, right? Yeah, so that could be a big part of it too, especially given the lack of information availability back then. My kids over the weekend were like, "You were born in the 1900s?" I was like, "Do you have to say it that way? That makes me sound really old." Right? Like really, really old when you say it. Like there was no internet. They're like, "How did you survive without your phone?" I'm like, "Well, they didn't exist, so it was like it just was." They're like they just can't even fathom, right? My poor kids. Like, what did you do without your phone? Right? Anyway. But and then some of the things we could do to help him, I really think that like if you think about the stuff that you just mentioned, like giving him some like more structured environment, education, you could teach a lot of like very concrete skills, right? Like it would have taken some repeating and purpose, but like Gilbert could teach him or someone could teach him how to bathe himself. What do you do? Right? And then you give a little freedom, but you come back. Okay, like so when you're done doing like washing yourself, you're gonna get out with the towel. Okay, and then you come back in 10 minutes to make sure they got out with the towel. Right. And you kind of build up to little things, some more like education, maybe special education to help him. When people have like IDD, you're going to oftentimes like learn to function and live with it and learn those skills, unless it's like a profound or severe level, which might require like more formalized care. So I think there's a lot of potential for Arnie in a different environment with more like structure, maybe better schooling and so on. And again, I think if you had either of these diagnoses, you're in a good spot, right? And that's kind of what you're doing with your paper, right? You're going to get this like list with your character, and then you're going to start narrowing it down and you're going to support your disorder. You can be wrong on the disorder that you pick as long as you support it well. Okay, that's all I'm looking to see is that you pick something, you look at the criteria and you support it. That's the biggest part of what you're trying to do in that paper. Any last like thoughts or comments about Arnie before I collect those sheets from you? All right, if you want to make sure your first and last name is on there, I'll come around and grab them all. You can get credit for your thoughts. If you forgot it for some reason, you can email it to me. Oh, so by the end of the day today, if you want to email it to me, I'll still take it from you. Yeah, here's that. Thank you so much. I don't want to knock over your coffee, but that's punishable by death, right? Over someone's coffee. So, Our next chapter, so we'll look at chapter 15. I can't believe we're at 15. I get sentimental toward the end. Like we have 15 and 16 left. That's it. It's wild, right? So what we'll do is we'll look at 15. We're gonna look at some disorders of aging. And then we go from there to forensic psychology, which is kind of an interesting one where we'll look at like cases of like insanity and like famous pleas of insanity and so on. So I'm actually thinking what I might do is stop here, like give you a few minutes, and then what we'll do is we'll jump into this when I see you on Wednesday. I know a lot of you had questions, so I'm gonna leave a few minutes if any of you have questions you want to come up and ask about the paper. Big thing, don't forget about that. It's due on Wednesday, right? So make sure you get that turned in on Canvas. On Wednesday, we'll jump into this. It should take us about a day, and then we'll spend our last couple of classes looking at forensic psychology, which is a fun one. Lots of interesting cases in that stuff. So I'll stop there. If you have any questions, feel free to come up and chat with me about it. Otherwise, enjoy the last of the rain for a couple of days. I'll see you on Wednesday.